Over the years, I have shared with you the incredibly short list of vehicles that I would personally write a check for, and contrary to popular opinion, no, they are not all 911s and Elises. In fact, one of them has just been shipped here to the hangar from Stuttgart, complete with a couple of updates. So why don't we take the opportunity to get reacquainted with an old friend. Even I will admit, some days at the office, significantly better than others. Today is indeed one of those days, because what you are looking at is a 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8. And no, it is not one of those AMG E63 series we've been driving so much as of late. Rather, that is a full-fat AMG, translated hand-built, in this case by Christian Both. Vielen Dank, Herr Both. 603 horsepower. Comes in at 5,750 RPM, stays flat all up to 6,500 RPM. Even more comical, 627 pound-feet of torque, comes in at 2,500 RPM, stays flat all the way up to 4,500 RPM. Yes, the same as the wagon we drove like 2 years ago. Does drive all 4 wheels through a 9-speed automatic. Now yes, most 9-speed automatics from Mercedes we've been driving, they have torque converters. In this case, I don't believe it was Herr Both, but they ripped out the torque converter and they've replaced it with a multi-plate wet clutch. Now, do we really need to talk about fuel economy? Because why? However, we do need to talk about the weight, 4,387 pounds, depending on how you express your weights and measures, 1,990 kilograms. Then the performance figures, 0 to 60, 3.3 seconds. But far more interesting, the VMAX, it's electronically limited. Now I know what you're thinking, 155 miles an hour. No, it is electronically limited to 186 miles an hour. With that. And that is, oh my God, I miss this thing so much. Oh. No, we don't need to discuss. Is it linear power, or how does it deliver power in these scenarios? This is just ridiculously fast, even with the changes on the outside. Can I say it feels like being hit in the face by a sledgehammer, or another way, being hit in the back of the head by a 2x4, which in this case is a very good thing. And may I add, the folks in Stuttgart really know how to make a big engine like this sound angry, and I love me an angry engine. Like the engine, everything underneath the car is pretty much the same, which is to say a good thing. Solar refresher, multi-link all the way around, specifically up front. Wishbone struts, as well as a spring link. In the rear, a 3-chamber air ride and a limited slip differential. The wheels, 20-inch diameter all the way around. The brakes, now if this were fitted with the standard steel rotors, 15.4-inch diameter rotors in the front, 14.2 in the rear. However, this car is fitted with the optional carbon ceramic rotors, 15.8-inch diameter rotors in the front, 6-piston calipers, and 14.2 in the rear with 1-piston calipers. Now yes, this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, so let's drill down a little bit into that. The torque is permanent to the rear, it is variable to the front. Now we do need to focus on 2 finer points we never covered when we drove the wagon. The first is a drive mode we have no control over. So yes, this is a very intricate suspension that has all these different modes of adjustability to the damper mapping. However, there is one sudden load change mode that is completely controlled by the brain of the vehicle, no matter the mode you are in. So it senses when there is sudden load change, whether it's pitch, squat, or dive, and it counteracts where the weight is going. Then the second finer point is something related to all those 992s that we drive. Now there it's called Sport Chrono, here adjustable engine mounts. Now the logic behind that is, yes, you want a stiffer vehicle, meaning the shell of the vehicle when you are cornering, especially one that is almost 4,400 pounds. But that alternatively drops an atomic bomb on the ride quality of the car. So when one is in comfort mode, it changes the adjustable engine mounts to a softer setting, thus improving the ride quality. Yes, this is indeed one of these magical cars where you and I can lop off the torque to the front wheels completely. Doing it is akin to launching an intercontinental ballistic missile. Step 1, we go into race mode, which we can confirm there. Step 2, we go into manual mode, which we confirm here. And step 3, which I already did, completely switch off the traction control. Now this last step is the most important. You hold both paddles back simultaneously, gives you an interrupt screen, and you confirm it with an up, and now this is a two-wheel drive vehicle. And immediately I can tell you there really isn't a significant difference in the steering or really the driving personality as there was in the BMW. Remember the M5, you could do the same trick completely, no torque to the front wheels, and it does change the feel of the steering. Here, the steering feels almost identical whether it's an all-wheel drive as well as two-wheel drive mode, because it does maintain somewhat neutral handling when it is in two-wheel drive mode, where if you remember in the BMW, it turns into somewhat of a weapon, almost like in a driving dynamic spectrum. The M5 turns into a bit of a viper and that the thing can kill you. Here, it's a little bit more docile when you get it into two-wheel drive mode. So it is not entirely lost on me that yes, the engine and pretty much everything underneath, as we've learned thus far, is the same as the vehicle we've already driven. So why are we driving this car again? Well, there are some changes, and it's pretty much the outside of the vehicle. As you can see, it has the Pan-Americana grille. The splitter in the front is changed. The entire rear is different, but the thing that I love the most in the rear, the exhaust tips, not chrome, not black, titanium matte finish. I almost feel sacrilegious discussing anything outside of the engine in this vehicle, but there is one major change that is noticeable only after some time with the car, and that is the steering wheel. Yes, the design is completely different. I would argue it's definitely more pleasing on the eyes, but there are two major differences. Number one, the paddle shifts are much larger, so I would argue they are a lot easier to use. I still would like them mounted to the steering column and make them like this tall. They would be a lot easier to use and better for the personality of a vehicle like this. Now, you are going to think I have completely gone off the deep end. However, there is a change that is more important than those paddle shifters. It's the steering wheel controls. In the first version of this generation of E-Class, they switched to capacitive touch, which I wasn't a big fan of because they were kind of slow, and frankly, they don't promote driver safety, and here's why. I'm going to take my sunglasses off, I'm going to try to control that, go to the home, and then I want to go into, say, settings, click on that. I actually went into the wrong thing, so go back to home. Notice as I'm doing this, I'm taking my eyes off the road to look at this. If these were real steering wheel controls, meaning hard buttons, and they were focused on things just like volume or changing radio stations or even modes, which they do a great job here, that would be a much better solution. And Mercedes, I would argue they're kind of halfway there because they're better than most newer solutions coming out from OEMs, in that they've got wonderful toggle switches here for the HVAC, so I don't have to take my eyes off the road to change the temperature or any of that kind of stuff. They've got great hard buttons here. Yeah, they've got this trackpad, which I am not a fan of, and that's complemented in these two knobs in the steering wheel. Now, we first saw them in the AMG GT. Here, this is the latest revision because now the one on the left side has multiple functions, and again, you don't need to take your eyes off the road to make changes on this. Now, we'll say a couple of times that I've been driving this vehicle, I might like touch my thumb on the steering wheel in error and it changes the radio station, or it changes something I didn't want to, and that's one of the annoying things about capacitive touch. Here, you're halfway there. It's a great design because you got toggle switches and knobs and things that promote driver safety. Let's take it all the way to driver safety, and let's go back to more real buttons, real knobs. Vielen Dank. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game, Mind the Opposites game, with today's contestant, one of our all-time favorites. This one updated for 2021, the Mercedes AMG E63s, for a base price of $107,500. To that we add arguably the most stunning color I have ever seen on a Mercedes or an AMG. That is called brilliant blue Magno. It is a matte finish, and I would like to point out it is even more magnificent than the grüne Hülle we saw on that GTR. And yes, it is better than the sunburst yellow we saw on the GTR Roadster, but it's also a bit of a bargain. Those two paint colors on a smaller car, meaning less paint, are 10 grand. Here, $3,950. And may I add, you really need to see this in person because it just comes off the page. To that, we add black and titanium gray Napa leather. That is no charge. The AMG carbon fiber trim on the inside, $2,850. And then the AMG carbon ceramic rotors, $8,950. I don't know if I would do that in this car. Then this car is fitted with 20-inch wheels as standard. However, if you want those 20-inch wheels to be cross-spoke in black, that's an additional $2,000. And may I add, really underscores the beauty of the paint. Then we move on to the augmented video for the navigation system. We've seen that in many of those A-classes we have driven. Much more expensive there. Here it is $350. Then the head-up display. Why is this optional on an almost $108,000 car? $1,100. Then the Mercedes-Benz UX system. This I don't understand because Mercedes, they make a huge stink about this. Hey Mercedes, you can talk to the car and it talks back to you. They even have commercials about it. But they charge you extra for it. $200. Now we press on to an attempt at making the vehicle more attractive than it already is. Have I told you I'm incredibly smitten by that blue paint? Anyway, AMG carbon fiber exterior package 1. That is the carbon fiber trim on the lower rocker panels as well as the bumper, $2,950. Air balance system, $350. Rear window sunshade, $440. Now we press on to packages. The driver's assistance package, I've told you many times, these are incredibly important in Mercedes and AMGs because that is the Distronic Plus. No, it's not a self-driving car, but that is the sort of level 2 autonomy, as well as all the other safety doodads for $1,950. The advanced lighting package, I would love to tell you. It's the always-on high beam, laser beam lights we talk about from Europe that are legal in Europe and not legal here, but sadly not the case. This is the LED adaptive headlight, $800. And then of course, how can we have an AMG here in the hangar without the AMG night package? That is all the black trim, $750. And then yet another AMG carbon fiber exterior package. This one's more important. It is the mirror fairings as well as the rear spoiler, $1,750. And then the acoustic comfort package, that is better insulation to the vehicle and the glass, $1,100. And then it's just the destination and handling, $1,050 for a total retail price of $130,040. This transmission is just much more controllable than those torque converter units in BMWs as well as those mid-level AMGs. I can control the gears more. I can downshift even when the transmission thinks it's probably not a good idea. It gives me a little bit more leeway. There are times when, like, I'm at this speed going around a turn, it will not let me downshift because it doesn't want me to literally launch my car over there. Now, one more fascinating attribute about this transmission without the torque converter, it has the ability to completely transform its personality, more so than other transmissions that have different mapping modes. To do that, let's go into comfort mode. So now we're out of drift mode, back to four-wheel drive. And the thing you notice, the shifts are not as pronounced. And it's, again, a huge difference over other transmissions in very powerful cars that can do the same trick. My guess is the following will come as absolutely no shock to you whatsoever. All of the updates we covered today, yes, including that steering wheel, really don't change the fact that this remains firmly planted on my very short list of vehicles that I would personally write a check for. Really, the lesson we took away from today was this. When I finally become a practical human being, my wagon would absolutely be brilliant blue Magno. Granted, with red seatbelts, but oh yes, brilliant blue Magno. And with that, bis später.